Right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Love Island Cast. I am Chris Phelps and my co-host is Mr. Dave Horrocks.
Hey there, Chris.
And also today we have got another special guest and he's becoming a friend of the show. We've got Mr. Asa Caton.
Hello guys, thanks for having me back. It's great to be here. Can I just say, absolutely amazing effort on the podcast so far. It's great to see the numbers that you guys are pulling in. It's really entertaining. Keep going.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, obviously, we're recording this straight after the show, so we're hot off the press. So, Asa, as the guest, what have you got to say about tonight's episode?
Oh, guys, I didn't know you were coming to me first. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any big shock tonight. I think we expected exactly what was coming. You guys had already called it. It was going to be Joe and it was going to be Elma. Pretty gutted to see Elma go, to be fair, because I think she stood up well to the absolute horror that is Maura. And Joe, I think the way that the episode actually panned out last night, you saw him have a bit of a sit down and a heart to heart with Lucy. And as I said at the time, you know, too late, mate. Too little, too late. You are out of here. And yeah, he went.
Do you not think, and to both of you, I mean, we've poked fun at Joe and we've tweeted out things, you know, but do you not think he's been vilified slightly? You know, because everything in there is magnified so much.
I think I said this last time I came on, Dave. You know, he's gone in there, he's pulled an absolute worldie. I think he's been overawed by that, and he's been quite protective of her.
Yeah.
So as much as some of the stuff he's done has been a bit, it has been borderline creepy, but I can kind of understand why he's been like that.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. Because, I mean, let's not forget, when he gave that speech, and it was, you know, perfect. Every word that he said, you know, I know I've been a bit of a knob. He didn't use those words, but that was essentially what he was saying. And yeah. He said, brilliant line, you know, you're my unicorn. I thought, you fucking nailed it there. Obviously, we know as the audience, you two are fucked, and probably you, Joe, in particular. And I don't know if the producers were just playing with us a little bit there to say, aha, look, we made this guy out to be a serial killer. He's actually a really nice guy.
I think as well that what a coincidence for him to, as he's about to get absolutely thrown under the bus by the public, he conveniently does this, you know, heart to heart with her. And I'll be honest with both of you, I agree what you're saying slightly, but I call utter bullshit. I think he's been briefed by the producers to fucking break the fall, because I did say on one of our tweets yesterday that I honestly believe that he needs a bit of support. I mean, seeing what's happened with the show recently with various, you know, couple of people who've lost their lives, not straight from the show, but the life after the show, and there's no backup. I was a bit worried for him, as much as I thought he was a bit of a bellend. I was worried for him when he comes out, because if he goes on something like Loose Women, they're going to fucking tear him a new arse, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Well, Chris, I'm sorry. I'm going to call your ability to call bullshit, because up until the last 24 hours, you were hashtag Team Maura. You've done more 180s than Tommy has spun degrees cumulatively since he's gone in there.
I have no excuse, Ace. I mean, I've been on that many teams and trains in this 3 weeks.
I've been waiting. I have been waiting for 5 days for you guys to have me back on here, just so I could call you out. So, Chris, I call your calling out bullshit.
I am not going to argue with you, because I make the most. And as Dave has said, and you said the same, I am the guy who jumps out of a plane without a parachute and then wonders where my parachute is when I'm halfway down. So I am totally irrational. I'm the absolute headless chicken who overcommits to everything. And I know that with Maura, I made an absolute fucking faux pas. So I hold my hands up to both of you. But Asa, more importantly, it's my fucking podcast, and I'll do what I want, all right?
Absolutely.
Oh, he seems to be muted. We can't hear you.
I think that the one thing I would say is, and obviously I get the benefit of listening to this podcast after you guys recorded it. Usually, the one thing I would say is that with the benefit of hindsight, I think that some of your judgments on the characters in the villa are probably based more on a reactionary face value than actually delving deeper into the psychology of it. I think the editing's got a lot to do with that. I think there's been some very clever editing in play, but I would say that a lot of the characters in there, I think you guys take on face value.
I think for me personally, I also think that's the way the show is. To be fair, I don't know about yourself, Dave,
and that's what I should probably add to that is that's what makes the show entertaining, and that's what makes you guys entertaining.
Yeah,
I'm probably overthinking it a bit, but I get time to stand back and do that because I'm not on the show regularly.
Well, that's a fair comment.
Well, guys, before we go into deep psychology, then, I mean, for me, Elma won that episode last night, apart from getting booted out at the end, which I'm with you, Asa, I was gutted about. I'd said yesterday, I thought surely they can't boot her out when she's only just really arrived there. Yeah. And Maura's somehow there. But, you know, I was slightly annoyed with the way she seemed to capitulate. You know, Maura is a dominating personality, isn't she? So she was giving her loads, and at the end of that initial conversation, Elma was just basically admitting guilt on something she shouldn't have felt any guilt for. But as the episode went on, you know, you saw her try and rationalize itself. She was annoyed with herself and eventually called her out. And I was like, yes, you know? Yeah, I thought she did a brilliant job there.
I think Maura calling out girl code was just. She was so hypocritical, and I think that the nation has probably turned against her since she's done that. It was just unfortunate that all that happened for Elma after the vote had been and gone.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of you on this. Elma, for me, was the start of that show, and there's not been many who faced up to people. And that Maura, Jesus Christ, what the hell world is she living in when she's, like we just said, she's calling her out girl code. It's like, come on, anybody watching it, and then she is literally, she obviously gets her own way. I called out Amy a few episodes ago for that, and this Maura is obviously somebody who's the alpha of her family, who goes around probably dominating by probably her parents. And I don't know this, I'm just guessing, but she seems so headstrong that even when she's wrong, she's fucking right. You know what I mean? So that's what I have an issue with her.
I think you guys touched on this previously, but could you imagine if there was a bloke in the villa behaving the way that Maura has?
He'd have been chucked off already.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He'd be down the road. He'd be getting the police investigating and everything. He'd be that. But that was literally sexual harassment to Tommy, wasn't it?
But what I can't. Sorry to cut across you there, Chris. But what I couldn't get, and again, as with Tommy, when he says his sweet lines, I think he believes them himself. But when she's saying to Elma, she's saying, "When I came in, Tommy and Molly May weren't together." Yes, they fucking were. Yes, in every way. They were coupled up and they were sort of together. Now, Molly May did she was deliberating a little bit with Danny and Anton, wasn't she? But they were absolutely coupled up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. Now, also, guys, sorry, Asa, go on. You can say.
I was just going to say, Maura, for me, she's just an absolute sex pest. I'm going to call it out.
Makes fucking great TV, though.
It does make great TV. You know what? It is. And that's what I was saying. I said, I think it was the last episode, I said, when you have these people who are so controversial that you absolutely hate them, once they leave, it becomes too vanilla. Characters like her have to be in the show because I've got to be honest, I have no fucking horse in the race between Danny and Yolanda. I don't give a fuck about them two. I actually think now she's playing him. Because she's either been absolutely hurt beyond belief by somebody, or she's just playing a game. Because he literally sounds like he's all in. I really believe him, to be honest.
Sorry, just before we get into Yolanda and Danny, I think I just again on Elma, we'd sort of said that Elma and Anton, there's not really a lot of chemistry there, but I mean, I'm doing the 180 here with Anton a bit. You know, I'm sure in the outside world, you know, when he gets out there, he's going to be quids in. Absolutely. So I can't feel that sorry for him. But the thing with Elma, and Anton, it just seemed a little bit forced. And I don't know whether he knows his own comedy timing himself. But, when it was announced, he'd been saved, Elma had gone, he went into the diary room and he said, I've lost my best mate in the villa and the person I'm coupled up with. I just thought, he doesn't know his own comedy timing, I don't think. And I just thought that was brilliant, because obviously, I don't know about you, but I was thinking he was talking about Elma in that first bit. But I've really come around on Anton.
Right from the start, I think we all agreed that Anton was going to be the entertainment character, and he hasn't let us down.
No, he hasn't. Just before we go back to Danny and Joanda, I've got to say, Dave, he did slightly mention that he wasn't happy with the person he's coupled up with, talking about the fact that she's had a Barney with another girl over a lad they're both interested in. I think
he's friend-zoned himself, hasn't he?
Yeah.
They both talked to him. So Tom was yesterday, wasn't he? And he was saying, before, bro code, before I go and talk to her, I just want to talk to you. And he's like, yeah, sure, go for it. Like, and then she's confided in him, about this thing with Tom. And it's just like, again, I can't help but warm to him, because of the way, he's come in with all the bravado and everything. And I don't think you can fake being that nice. It's like Curtis. Yeah. So, hats off to him there. And I do hope there's some blonde stunner, because obviously that's his type, comes in and then he couples up with someone. I think he deserves that now. He's had more kick-ins than anyone in that villa so far.
No, I agree. Now, what do you think about Danny and Joanda then, what I mentioned before? I just think she's panicked now completely, and I don't get what her dynamic is, if I'm being honest.
I don't understand what her end game is. I mean, Danny sat there. You had some pretty harsh words to say about Danny on the last podcast, Chris. Now, he's a bit of a wet character for me.
Yeah,
I think I expected him to come in and be full of his own. Not his own importance, but his own, he's a good-looking guy. I thought he'd come in all guns blazing and just make his way around the girls. He seems to have made a beeline for Joanda, and he seems to not settled for that, but he's put all his eggs in that basket. And he was completely honest with her as they were sat on the sunbed together, and it almost feels like she's now trying to talk him out of the relationship.
She's trying to sabotage the relationship, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a human nature thing. It could be a knee-jerk reaction. I do agree with both of you, because I actually think that she was hoping he would be a typical bloke and go, well, you got to keep your options open, do a bit of a Anton and like, well, you never know, do you what's around the corner? And he didn't. And he told her probably the nicest, and much I've slated him, the nicest speech I've heard in there, which seemed so genuine and true. And then all I was waiting for her was to put her arms around him, kiss him, like, oh, this is it, bit of nicer music that they edited in. No, he got fuck all. She just sort of looked to him. Right, okay. And I was like, wow.
What an uncomfortable silence as well, where they're both staring into the front, it's like, oof.
Yeah, fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
I was sat forward in my chair going, go on.
Someone say something. Break the uncomfortable silence, for God's sake.
It's fucking amazing. What do you think of Tom, by the way, this new lad? He looks like he doesn't really give a shit, to be honest, does he?
Tom from Leeds, from Manchester.
The Yorkshire, Lancashire lad, him, who's got a Manchester accent. But he seems like he'll double dip everyone, I think.
I was laughing at the podcast yesterday when Dave said that. Does that make me Asa from Blackpool, from Manchester?
So where do you say you're from? You must say you're from Blackpool, don't you, Asa?
No, if people ask me where I'm from Manchester. I live in Manchester.
Oh, my bullshitometer's off the scale again. Here we go.
It's worse than that, because I'm actually living in Stockport. So I'm from Manchester.
Yes, you really are. But I can say that because I was born and bred in Manchester, and I still live in Manchester. So I'll take the moral high ground. But Dave, you lived in Manchester, didn't you? Well, you were Cheshire as well, I suppose, weren't you, for a while?
Manchester, Cheshire, yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure what I think about him, and what I do like about him is that, again, Maura has just thrown herself at him. And he's obviously, he'd have gone for Elma. You could see that, couldn't you? if she'd have stayed in. Now, I'm not sure what he's going to do next. But the fact that he is just a bit wary, and he'd even called Maura out, I think it was last night, wasn't it, where he said, well, it seems a bit strange. You were so for Tommy, and now you're just throwing yourself with your sex eyes at me. So it'll be interesting where he goes now. I
think he was just edging his bets, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
because he obviously had interest from Maura and from Elma, but I think he knew that Elma was coupled up with Anton. Yeah. So I
don't think he was asked by that, to be honest.
I think he would. I think he was just keeping
the peace.
I think he was keeping Maura on the back burner.
Yeah.
Just in case Elma decided that she was going to make a go of it with Anton.
Well, I think two things come out of it for me. They've now got in there, and I'm going to coin an American phrase, the probably best free agent in the house, which is Lucy. So I think Anton's going to get his tightest pants on again tonight. Tom's going to have a go, and I won't be surprised if Tommy ditches Molly, who I've got to say kisses him, which is the loudest kiss between, and Dave mentioned this yesterday, but I forgot to drop in there. It was like someone had put a suction thing on a piece of glass. I've never seen anything like it. I'm not blaming either of them. It was the loudest kiss I've ever heard.
What did you guys make to the eyes on the fries challenge? Because I thought that looked like a whole lot of fun, but Molly May was utter shit at everything from what I could see. You know? Whereas Maura could obviously take quite a lot of milkshake in her mouth. Molly May just kept turning away. You know, you could see Tommy was dropping it down, and she was like, "Get it away!" You
can't get away with that one day. That's a classic. I'm sure Maura.
No, she filled up. So Amber even said, you know, she filled up the. She filled it up right to the top.
Absolutely. I think Maura's had plenty of experience in
taking a lot of liquid into her mouth.
Taking a lot of milkshake in her mouth.
Comes quite handy in daily life, that, doesn't it? You know?
It does.
Especially now the 5p plastic bag charges come in.
Well, and now you have the paper straws as well, don't they? So.
Yeah. Does Maura's milkshake bring all the boys to the yard, though?
We're treading a fine line here. Let's move on.
I tell you what, while we're treading a fine line, let's stick on that line a bit more because, I mean, Chris, you'd mentioned about Jordan yesterday and not really warming to him. Yeah. And he seems to have just that permanent cheesy grin on his face, and I'm not sure what I make of him yet either. But when Anna and Jordan were in the diary room, did you notice that Anna said, like, I had to take everything he had into my mouth, and then Jordan's just sat there with the biggest smile in the villa there, just like, yeah, you did. You know, you haven't seen anything yet. So I don't get why Michael and Amber got away with it, and as the judges, I think that was the best thing for them. But it would have been fun to see them in that position as well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think as well is what's interesting, the dynamic of the house. I promise you, I agree, Dave. When you're doing these, I am not convinced by Tommy at all that he's into that Molly at all. One bit. I do not believe that tonight he will not make a play for Lucy. I honestly don't.
I said this straight after the episode. Lucy will either she'll be straight out the door and hand a ticket in, or Lucy will be straight out the door unless Tommy throws his hand in.
Yes. What do you think, Dave?
I think Tommy will be making a play. I still don't really see any connection, though, to be honest, Tommy does have that like boyish smile, like when he was telling Curtis about, you know, the kiss and everything, and the way he recited what he was saying, he'd obviously rehearsed what he was saying to her, and you know, all very, very good lines, but I just don't believe it. It was just too rehearsed. And I think it is gonna, I don't see them as a strong couple at all, and I think he will make a play for Lucy. And on the outside world, Joe's going to be watching TV going, I fucking knew it. I knew it.
Yeah, he will. Well, we'll know it's serious with Tommy when he starts singing Aerosmith. I don't want, like his brother. Then we know he's definitely felt for Molly. But I agree. Now, just before we go, because obviously we get to the end of the show, tomorrow's show, what are the predictions, guys? I know I've alluded to a couple of things. AC, you go first. What do you honestly believe is going to happen?
What do I think is going to happen? I think from the preview, there was a lot of Lucy getting upset. I think the focus on tomorrow's show will be Lucy getting upset, trying to lead everyone to believe that she's going to leave the villa, following Joe. And then I think there will be a twist at the 11th hour where Tommy makes a play for Lucy.
Yeah, I think very much more of the same. I can see that. You know, we saw in the preview that she's talking to someone, you don't see them, but you know it's Tommy. She's saying she only has two friends, you know, you and Anton. And she's right, you know, she has got a few knives in the back there. And I don't know if you noticed, but Amy, when they got voted out, Amy went straight up to Elma, who's been there for a few days. So again, very, very telling in some of the actions there. I think we might see a little bit more about Jordan and Anna. I still think Anna is playing it up because she thought she was going to get kicked out of the villa. You know, she's in the diary room. She's talking about how they've got a great connection. Now, again, I just don't see it. You know, I mean, I might be a bit old fashioned, but when you're talking about romantic lines and things, you know, it may come across a bit cheesy, but kind of things when he's by the pool, he could say, you know, I could listen to you talk all day, looking at you, I get lost in your eyes. And he could say all of these romantic things. And he goes, your bikini matches your eyes. It looks sick. Fucking great line, that. Great line. So, but I think tonight we might see a little bit more of them.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think for me, Dave, and I honestly believe that our friend of the show, and Ace, I do believe that before I mentioned her, you were going to call me out, but I do believe that she's just about now polishing up her hobnail boots, and good old Amy's going to give Lucy a fucking kicking while she's down tonight. I honestly think that's what's going to happen. I think she's going to have the knives out and everything, but Tommy and her are going to do something. Maybe Molly will get a bit jealous, change the dynamic. Also, there's going to be new additions to the house now, without a doubt. So I honestly believe there's going to be either two women coming or two men. It's cliched, I know. And as I keep mentioning, at some point they will get this weekend away where they literally introduce a whole new group of lads, and what'll happen is 5 lads coming, 5 girls coming, and they get to pick 2 of them to stay if they're coupled up. The rest of them end up going, but it's like a formula that's worked as long as they follow the same format of the last couple of years.
Yeah, so the difference between last year and this year is that last year we very early on saw the formation of Jack and Danny, and that was a kind of solid relationship all the way through the series, and this year we haven't had that. There's no Curtis and Amy are probably trying to be that, but I don't think they've got the following in the house that Jack and Danny had. It's a very different dynamic. So
I've just got, sorry to cut across you there, but you know when like Google and Twitter auto-fills what you're going to put in next? I typed that in this morning, as I do, to try and keep up with the news and stuff. And I typed in Google, Love Island, and the next word that came up was fingered. Sorry. Back to what you were saying there, Asa, but I was just having a little chuckle about that.
That's just completely not
thrown. Yeah, so I do this to Chris all the time.
I still, I'm not a fan of Curtis. I'm not a fan of Amy. They still seem to be getting involved in other people's business where they don't need to. But just going on from what Chris said, I did say I was going to call him out on Amber. I think I'm still very much Team Amber. I do like what's going on between Amber and Michael. I think they seem to be just taking it easy, taking it slow. I think there's a good dynamic there between them. But I think Amber was absolutely right to call out Lucy after the food fight. I think Lucy knew exactly what she was doing in that food fight. She went hell for leather for Amy. And then she sat there afterwards and tried to play it down and say, I was just having a laugh. And she knew that she wasn't just having a laugh. She knew that she'd gone for Amy, and Amber was right to call it out. She stood there and she's done what she said right from the start. She's been honest with everyone, and she's just called it as it is. And she stood there and said, Lucy, you know, you can sit there having a laugh and a joke about it and saying it was just a bit of banter. I was just throwing a bit of food around. But actually, you know it was more than that, and you know that Amy's crying. So don't sit there and try and be the innocent. So fair play to hashtag Team Amber for me. Fair play. She's stuck to her guns.
I would say that I do understand what you're saying. I do understand why Lucy did it, because she's been absolutely thrown under the bus and a slight bit of bullying. But as you said to me at the start, Asa, I call that bullshit. Like they fucking is.
We've already called out your ability to claim bullshit.
True. And having done the footy podcast, I think I'm with you on that one, Asa, to be honest. All Burnley are going to finish fourth. But, I see that perspective. Now, I was thinking about this more, and I was thinking, you know what? If I was in there with some friends, I think I'd be throwing the cake more at who I thought my friends were than everyone else. So I genuinely, I don't know the answer. It's interesting because we came down on the side of the fence that was, Amber stepped over the line a bit there. And again, with the editing, it's not like the old days of Big Brother where you could see everything. So you could see a lot more of the context. You're seeing what the producers want you to see. So I think we both could be right. But to be honest, all I heard from that, Asa, was that you were rooting for the Scouser and the Geordie.
Yeah. Oh, Asa. That is perfect.
No, I'm still Team Amber. She went in there with a very clear intention that she is what she is. She's honest with everybody, and she's never diverted away from that.
No. And to be fair, what I know, joking aside, what I just said then, but I agree. What she did wasn't wrong. She was sticking up for her friend. She was sticking up for someone she saw as her friend being sort of picked on and victimised. But what she hasn't seen, and that's not her fault, that's because Amy plays such a good game, is what's happened to Lucy. We've got hindsight and the fact that we can actually see, we can watch it, the foresight, watching the show, that we can actually see what's going on. She might not be seeing what Amy's doing. So you are right. All she sees is that Lucy's had a pop at Amy. So she would do that. I have no problem with Amber. I think she does wear a heart on her sleeve. And she's probably one of the only ones who actually doesn't stand any bullshit, like what Elma did. I give her credit. So you are right. All joking is that you are correct. But unfortunately, we see what Amy's done, and Amy's a fucking bitch.
So there's probably two things that I'd say to come back to that. So regardless of who it was, whether it was Lucy, Amy, or any of the other housemates, I would say that I think Amber would have called it out regardless. And I think she would have stood there and said, you're right, you might be laughing and joking, but that person's away and they're upset. So you need to fix that. Yeah. I think she's just that kind of character in the villa. Yeah. And the other thing that I would say is that, yes, Lucy probably has been borderline bullied by the rest of the girls. I think if she's playing the game, she's missed a trick by sitting there and saying, oh, it's just a bit of banter, I didn't really mean it, when we all know from looking in from the outside that actually it was more than that. That's just my take on it.
Make yourself, Dave.
Very good. And again, look, we're all just discussing it, aren't we? And just giving our opinion. So it's brilliant. More the better.
Let's not fall out, lads. Let's not fall out.
No. Not fucking having you back on now.
So hang on a minute. The cynic's now the biggest fan, and he's watching, and he's got the app and that, and then Ace has come on and destroyed us, Dave. So we might as well bring it. No, he hasn't.
Oh yeah. Sorry. No. While I'm here, I do need to call something else out.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Fucking hell. Here we go.
I do need to call something else out.
Resignation in now. Go on.
Isn't this when the theme music's coming in?
I can edit it. So you want it. Go on.
Here we go. Mr. Horrocks. Mr. Horrocks.
Here we go.
The show's biggest cynic, who is now watching every episode. He's now watching the unseen episodes. He's got the app.
Don't forget After Sun.
He's got the app. He's listening to the official podcast. He's watching the After Sun episodes. Mate, what has happened?
To be fair, that's not new information. I think I've called myself out on that, haven't I? We set off this project so that, we'd have very opposing views and, I'd be the cynical one. I think I lasted to about episode 3 and I was completely hooked. So I'm all in. I've forgotten all of that cynicism. And I think it's probably Chris, out of the two of us who's more like, it's all a show. I'm like, just buying it all hook, line and sinker, to be honest.
How dare you?
Yeah, that's the whole point in it. It's a great dynamic because like what you've just done there today, Ace, is really good because it brings another opinion to the show. And it really does. And just to sort of split off from that, anyone who's listening, guys, and we've had some cracking responses to this show. We read one out yesterday. We've had another response from a lady called Karen praising me and Dave for the show. She really enjoys it. We can't thank her enough. Thank you, Karen. But if you do want to get involved and you don't fancy coming on and talking to us, which anybody's is, if you're willing to come on, we will have you on as a guest. Get on the app on Anchor and leave us a voice message, and we'll either read it out. If you don't want to read it out, play it in the show. So anything like that, get over there, guys. We do appreciate it. Now, Asa, we've got to wrap it up. I really, really want to thank you for coming on. Dave, as always, class. We've had a top laugh. This has been really good. If you want to get hold of the show, we're on Twitter at Love Island Cast. If you want to email us, it's the loveislandcast@gmail.com. And Asa, what's it, your band? AKA Noel Gallagher.
AKA Noel G. You'll find us on Twitter and on Instagram. Facebook page is AKA Noel Gallagher Tribute. And you can see us. I think we've just been in Hull Fest this weekend. We've got Rock Pressed coming up in Preston. We've got gigs coming up all across the Northwest. So it'd be great to see you there.
Good stuff. And if you're not sure who Asa is, he's the one with the bass drum that says #Team Amber, guys. So that's exactly where you'll find Asa. Dave, anything to say before we go?
More of a Liam man myself.
See ya.
As it was.